Hello, and welcome to the Pain Free Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Geiger. I am a pain management coach and neuromuscular therapist. I want to share specific strategies and tools to help you get out of pain so you can live a happy and healthy lifestyle. If you're interested in that, please subscribe to the podcast, give this episode a like, and also comment on what your biggest takeaway was from today's episode. Let's get into it. I'm not one of those people, but I also am very realistic and optimistic that we can do a lot more than we think that we can do. And we can heal things much more quickly than we are told. What I'm going to share with you are 7 things that you can do and that I did to really help you to heal an injury quickly. We are talking all about how you can actually heal your injury quicker. I'm going to be sharing my personal experience with a recent knee injury, which I healed very quickly, well, relatively quickly. It took about from like the very onset of symptoms to being able to work out without pain about 3 or 4 weeks. Now it's been about 7 weeks since, and I am doing PRs at the gym and I'm working out almost exactly like I used to. I have been at Burn now for 2.5 years, but 2 months into starting, I got pregnant. And so the majority of time that I've been there, I was either pregnant or postpartum. And I did exercise up until I delivered. I actually went into labor about 15 minutes after leaving the gym, a week after my due date. So anyway, I worked out the entire time and modified. I think there were some trainers who thought maybe I should modify more. I think I worried them a little bit, but I know my body and I always got the clearance from my doctor. And of course they were like, okay, it's fine. I guess you know what you're doing. But I also was really careful. I was not jumping and doing different things. And it came to a point where I just couldn't get up and down anyway to like do all these different kinds of movements. Then I, obviously had to take 2 months off. I actually took a month off from working out completely. I just did walks, and then I went slowly went back into Pilates and then yoga, and then back to Burn after 8 weeks. And then I just really took my time for a while, up until about this time last year is when I really started to like push, especially the strength. And so, I kind of built my strength up starting in February, and I was feeling like amazing, in November. And then things started to like go downhill. And that's why at first, I don't have this really good, like I don't have a baseline, because before that I was doing 9 round and I was there for 4 years, but it's a different type of workout. So I don't know like what my baseline ability is, I guess, and what I really can do. And I'm basing off of like what I was doing a year ago, which was 6 months postpartum. And I was breastfeeding up until about 3 months ago. So I really count that as being postpartum, and even a few months after breastfeeding, because it takes a while for your hormones to become more balanced. So anyway, I'm just sharing that to let you know kind of like where I am personally. Maybe you dealt the same kind of thing. I don't know, but I just want to be like really transparent about it. I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, do these things and you're going to be healed. I'm not one of those people, but I also am very realistic and optimistic that we can do a lot more than we think that we can do. And we can heal things much more quickly than we are told by lots of people. What I'm going to share with you are 7 things that you can do and that I did to really help you to heal an injury quickly. Now, this kind of injury that I'm talking about is kind of like a strain, a repetitive use injury. This is not, you tore your ACL and we're going to heal that in a month. No, this is the kind of injury that is not a severe, like doesn't have like a serious medical diagnosis, but it hurts like hell and it feels like your knee's going to pop out. At least that was my experience, that I felt like my knee was going to pop out. And since I do know a lot about the body and a lot about pain, I definitely don't like freak out, when something hurts a little bit, I wouldn't say I push through the pain. I don't think you should push through sharp pain, but the dull pain, it's just warming up you're stiff, things are going to like hurt a little bit. You can push through that, but it shouldn't be where like it's like really sharp pain. So I'm not afraid of pain. And I also don't want to be stupid, and like hurt myself, like for real hurt myself, because then I can't do it. I was doing some pelvic floor therapy, and I released a really good restriction in my hip. And it was like, oh my gosh, like it was so crazy, because the reason originally that I even wanted to go and release this thing in my hip is because, number one, I knew I needed to do it after having my baby. I did do pelvic floor therapy for a few months when she was about 4 months old, I guess, like 4 to 7 months. But then I needed to do my own self work after that. And I wasn't really good at that, because maybe we'll share this for another episode, but it just isn't very comfortable. And so anyway, I finally did, because I kept having this like foot issue on that side. And I thought, well, maybe my recurring foot pain is from this imbalance in my hip. And ever since then, I actually haven't had much of the foot pain. So I do think that definitely helped. But crazily, my like glute was so sore, like tender to the touch. And I had realized that I had been holding this dysfunction for a long time. And I think it was really probably about 15 years, because I had fallen down the steps and hurt my hip. And I think that's where it all kind of stemmed from. And even though like my hip didn't hurt, I noticed that I would kind of shift my weight a little bit when I was sitting in a chair, or I put my foot underneath my butt, and I would just do different things, because if I didn't, it would be uncomfortable, but not necessarily painful. So anyway, I released that, and then guess what started hurting? My knee. And my right knee is something that I had a problem with when I was pregnant with my first daughter 12 years ago, and for a couple of years after having her. So it's definitely something that I have experienced before. So it's something that I kind of like, I don't know, I take note of, I guess. And anyway, so I think what happened is that I opened up and cleared out a little bit of a compensation that really just, revealed to me another compensation that I have to work on. So I think that's what it really was. And so I was kind of like already using muscles that were already too tight, or restricted, or overly stretched. Who really knows? It could be tight or taut, but I think I ended up just overworking it. It was like a Saturday that I felt this like initial thing, and it wasn't like every move that I could do. It was basically squats were like the main thing. Squats and lunges were the main things that like I just ended up couldn't do. And I remember on like Wednesday, I was like, oh, that hurts. Okay, I'm not doing that. So I modified everything that day. And then Friday I came back to the gym, and it was like a leg day, and I could not do it. I almost actually cried that day, because I was doing lunges and I literally could not do it. I could not do it. And I had just like I was telling you, I felt amazing in November, because I have been working on so many things. I had hip pain from birth, from delivering my child. And like I said, I've experienced this other, knee pain from my first child. And so like I have these things that I've dealt with. And so I was so good about working up. And I was finally at this point where I was like, wow, I feel so great and like mobile. And like, side note too, when I released the thing in my hip that ended up not having, like I didn't have pain from it originally, but I could notice, I increased the mobility. So there were some exercises that I couldn't do. I couldn't like get my knee to tuck as much as I wanted to on that side. Say if I'm doing like mountain climbers, or we're like drawing our knees and doing certain core exercises, or even like burpees and stuff. And so that changed, which was really cool. So like actually gained mobility, but then now I have a pain in my knee, which is really just part of the therapeutic process. We're all onions, you just need to be peeled. Going back, I promise I'm not going to no, I'm not going to promise that. Never mind. I might go back and forth, because, I'm not going to be scripted in my podcast. I want it to be fun and casual. And you never know what's going to come up, and there might be something really like helpful or possibly funny that will come up, and I'm going to share with you. It's just crazy that when you are in therapy, physical therapy, massage therapy, sometimes like things come up that like are worse, but there's also things that are better. So you have to really pay attention to where you're improving, and pay attention to what is getting worse or now being revealed to you, because then that's like the next thing to work on. So I had kind of, basically in November, I just felt like I was at like the top of my game. I felt like, I mean, I could run like fast, I could lift heavy, I could do all of the plyo exercises, I could just do it really good. Even my jump knee tuck actually was better. I could go higher and tuck up my leg because my hip now had this more mobility. Lunges were something that I really was struggling with. And I think that really had to do with my hip issue from birth. And so I finally got to a point where I could do it weighted. I could get both knees down to the ground when I was doing the lunges. And so on this Friday, when I had to do lunges and I couldn't do it, I really thought about crying because I was just like, man, I just was able to do this, get my knee all the way to the ground. And now I can't even bend my freaking knee. Can't even bend it. Like, it was such a sharp, bad pain that like my kneecap felt like if I would have tried to squat any like deeper, it would have like cracked, broken, exploded, whatever a knee does that it should not do. That's what it felt like. And so I was like, oh my God, I was so disappointed. And just kind of upset because I was like, man, I feel like I'm taking 10 steps back right now. So anyway, that's where I was. That's where I was. Basically, that was the first week of the year. I'm going to share a few of these 7 things that I did to help myself heal quickly and now be able to PR, lift heavier than I have ever, and have no pain when I'm working out. So let's get into it. The very first thing that I did, and actually what I really will say is that I did not stop doing, is exercise. When you are in pain, it is very natural for you to not want to move because you're just like, I hurt. I don't want to move. I don't want to make it worse. But the reality is, if you do not move, you will stiffen up. You will atrophy. You will lose strength. You will make yourself more worse off than you ever were from the beginning. Now, you have to also be mindful of what exercise you're doing. I eliminated squats and lunges. I tested it every now and then to see where I was with it, what the pain felt like. But I just took it out. Like in some things I could do body weight, but like absolutely no weighted any of that. But I kept doing it. And I still went to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. I just kept up with it, modified, took out plyo, and I just kept moving. Movement is medicine. You know, if you are waiting for your pain to go away before you start exercising, you will never start exercising. You know, you're going to have pain. Part of that pain is it your body talking to you and saying, hey, get your butt up and get moving. I'm hurting because I'm not being used, you know, or maybe I'm being improperly used and you got to like cut it back a little bit. But you still have to move. You know, I do hear my clients, you know, they tell me they see their doctor. And although they don't have an actual medical diagnosis, the doctors are like, just stop working out. Let's just do, you know, 6 weeks of this, and then we'll see where you are. First off, if you are not working out at all, you're going to 100% atrophy, 100% lose strength, 100% stiffen up, and 100% be worse off in 6 weeks. Like if you do nothing between now and 6 weeks, you are guaranteed to need whatever it is that they are wanting to do next because that's setting yourself up for failure. Now, if in that 6 weeks you're doing specific exercises like PT and working out like full body style so you can still keep the rest of your body working, that would be probably ideal and you'll probably be really better off. But to just not work out at all, I just hate that. And besides the fact that, you know, working out is physical, it's also mental and social. Like it's so good as like a stress reliever and for anxiety and just to have that time to yourself and also to have that time with community and have that time with friends and to just be around people, you know? So I hate when people, especially like medical professionals and people who have clout to say, don't exercise. I hate that. So number 1, exercise. Move your body mindfully, but mindfully. Okay. Disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Always speak to your doctor before seeking medical advice or changing your exercise routine. Okay. I have to say that. Now, second thing that I did is massage. I self-massaged for the first 3 weeks. I basically was able to get myself completely out of pain to be able to do a squat before I actually booked a professional massage. And with professional massage, you have to find someone who is specialized in specific muscle work, specific for pain relief and muscle function rehabilitation. Because just general massage is probably going to feel good. It might help a little bit, but you'll be done with that massage and think massage doesn't work because I tried it and nothing happened. But if you have non-specific massage or just improper techniques, it's not going to be effective. But there's also a lot of stuff that you can do yourself. And so I did general massage to loosen up the tissue. And then I was looking for trigger points to work out, adhesions, restrictions. And I even used a gua sha tool. So I have a stainless steel one because I broke my glass one. So I was never going to buy another glass one again because, life. And so I use the steel one to help break up a little bit of adhesions in my lower leg, excuse me, the lower quad, because basically it was just too tight. It was just working too hard. I think my quad and my hamstring, my adductors, they were all fighting against each other. I even had someone who recommended to do strength training on my quad. And I was like, the thing that hurts is doing a squat. My issue is not that my quad is weak. It's that it's too freaking tight because it's been taking up the brunt of the left side of my body too. So anyway, you got to massage it. Massage is so intuitive, really. Like think about if you ever like hurt yourself. The first thing you do is go to touch it. You want to touch it, you want to squeeze it, you want to do things to make it feel better. It's just such an intuitive thing that we have. It's our gift. And so you can massage the muscle to loosen up the fibers, to take the stress off of it. Because again, the pain feels really bad. Feels like there's something wrong. But if you've been checked out and there's nothing wrong, that pain is just saying, hey, I need some extra love here. And once you reduce that tension, the pain lessens and eventually goes away. So next thing that I did and that you can do is apply heat. You want to apply heat to the muscle. The muscle, again, becomes restricted. The fibers stick together and it takes some heat to kind of melt that apart. Ice is good for acute inflammation, like on a joint. When it comes to the muscle, if you apply ice to a muscle, it just stiffens up. That's why I particularly am not doing cryo in the winter because I'm already so freaking like cold and stiff that even if I would get some benefit from the anti-inflammatory effect of the cryo on my knee, it's just not worth it to the rest of my body, because I got to think about the rest of my body. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, putting heat on the muscle. I actually did. There was only one night that I did it, but one night that I did put ice on my knee and had heat all over my quad, which was great. And I alternated the heat from my quad, my adductors, and my hamstrings and my hips. And so that was really, really helpful to just, again, soften everything up. And I have a massager. It's funny because I actually bought it for my husband. And he was like, wow, like you're really getting a lot of use out of my Christmas present. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And we have another heating pad, but the one I got him was kind of weighted. So it was a little bit heavier and I could kind of contour it and it would like stick around my thigh. And then it also had little things in it to vibrate. So you got some vibration, which helps to also break up the tissue. I did use the Theragun as well, but only the Theragun for like general, like loosening up, not for specific work. You gotta be really careful. Like if you have something that's very specific, you could actually aggravate it by doing like really strong percussion, but this like gentle vibration felt really good. And so I did that. And then also stretching and doing stretching after applying heat or after massaging or after exercising is the best because you're already warmed up. Exercise, heat, and massage all warm up the tissue and prepare it for that stretch. So your muscles can stretch, I believe it's like 160 to 170% of its normal muscle length. And then it can shorten to like 60 or 70. I don't know. I get the 60 and 70 backwards. Either way, really doesn't matter. But the point is your muscle can stretch very long. And so sometimes you actually cannot stretch your muscle enough because the fibers can stretch so far that your bones end up getting in the way. So I could do a quad stretch and I could touch my foot to my butt, but I'm not actually stretching those restrictions. And so that's why it's important to manually with massage, work out any restrictions of those fibers and then stretch it. So the stretching reminds your muscle of its normal resting length. And I've talked a lot about normal resting length because your muscles function best when they are at normal resting length. You don't want them to be too short, and you don't want them to be too long. So too short would be they're in a contracted state, even if you're not contracting your muscle, but because you're always doing bicep curls, you're never stretching your bicep, so it would naturally shorten. Or it'll be overstretched and longer, and that's due to really the same kind of thing, or an area pulling on that other area. And you can definitely overstretch. So one key I will just note here, because I could talk about this one for a long time, is that if you stretch and during your stretch, you do not feel that stretch lessen, one of two things are happening. Either you're stretching it too far, or actually that muscle is already on a stretch and you should stretch the opposite muscle. So stretching, very important, but it is not everything. And you want to do it after you've warmed up the tissue. Next thing that I did, and that I love so much too, actually I love them all, but are topicals. So I have two of my favorite topicals to use are, one is a deep relief roll-on. It's a blend of different essential oils like wintergreen, peppermint, copaiba. I get that through Young Living. And this is something that I do really ritualistically. I put this on my neck before a workout, before a body work session. Like if I'm giving a body work session, because I don't know, it's a ritual. It just feels really good. But then if I actually have pain, like just the other day, last week, we were doing arm exercises, and I just like had like a little thing on my right shoulder in the front, and it wasn't super painful. It was just like noticeable. So I'm like, let me just put a little something right here, because that will just make it feel good. And it did. So this one I use like preventatively, or just because it feels good. But the other one that I really like is a CBD muscle rub. This is also from Young Living. I just like Young Living because although it's an MLM, I'm not really into that part of it. I'm not looking at it as like a business opportunity. I just look at it as like a way to get really good oils at a discounted rate. And I trust them, and they're third party tested and everything. Because with CBD, you have to be careful that you're not getting something that has been tampered with, or that does have THC, especially if like you're drug tested at work and stuff. But anyway, so I use the CBD muscle rub, and this is one that I use only when I'm in pain. I put that on my knee, and I typically did that before I'd go to bed, because I would just like lay in bed and my knee would just hurt, like in that extended state. Even putting like a pillow under it, it just like, I feel like I couldn't get it in a comfortable position. I felt like whatever I was doing to it just wasn't going to, like, I don't know, it just didn't feel great. So I put that on it, and it helped. CBD is anti-inflammatory. Actually, all the oils are anti-inflammatory. Or they are muscle relaxers as well. Some are both. So using topicals, put something on it. There are other things that you can use as well. I'd rather to stick with something that is more natural, doesn't have any chemicals in it. But yeah, topicals are really good because they feel good and they actually work. The next thing that I did is I used KT tape. If you're not familiar, this almost looks like duct tape, but it's very flexible. Which, funny story, I remember this is many, many years ago. Chris and my husband, went to a party, and I was just, I don't know, I was talking and not really paying attention to where my feet were at the time, and I just totally fell, and I hurt my shoulder. And I just like intuitively, like the next day, took some duct tape and put it like by my pec, and wrapped it around to like my scapula, and I just like held it there. So it was just like, this is before like I even knew about KT tape. And so anyway, yeah, if you don't have KT tape, you could use duct tape. Now it's not going to feel good when you take it off, but it will do the job. So anyway, I did put that on my leg to help take some of the pressure off my knee. And that really helps with the fascial release too. It's very interesting. It's something that I definitely am interested in taking a course on to become certified in. I definitely can apply the tape, but I just like to learn. I just like to learn a lot about everything so I can know even more. But that really did help as well. And I only did it one time, though. I had it on there for 3 days. So the thing that I did the most was massage, heat, and stretch. Those are the 3 things. And I guess exercise too. I mean, because like I do that 5 days a week. And then if it's nice out, I will walk. So anyway, the last thing that I did is, I had to just get in touch with how I am feeling emotionally. To be honest, there was a lot of stuff that had been going on. I really think as soon as I turned 39, oh, my head started spinning. It started spinning wildly because, you know, It's my last year in my 30s. I'm about to be 40. I had to analyze every situation, financial, physical, mental, you know, family, house, business, just all the things. And I was just like overwhelmed, I guess, really. And started to kind of get a little bit negative because things have changed since having my baby. Like it took me 7 years to get pregnant. And so although we, really wanted her and we tried so hard for her, you know, you're never quite ready for how this change will happen. And considering my first daughter I had, and then I started my career. Now I'm in my career, I'm doing things. And so again, I felt like with my career, I had to take a step or two backwards. And I'm happy to do it. I would pay $1 million or more, for her. I would do whatever I had to do for her and to have her. She's amazing. And she just adds to our family so much. And it's just great for every person in our family. But it just came with its challenges and it came with making changes and stuff. And so it made me think like, oh gosh, like I felt like I was behind basically. And then I started just looking at my relationships and other things and just, I just kind of got into a negative headspace about it, which is why this year, 2024, my goal was not really on, I do have written down some like tangible goals, but I focus more at the beginning of the year on mindset. And my focus is really on focusing on what I can do versus what I can't, what I do have versus what I don't, because just focusing on more positive things keep me in a better state of mind, and it will actually help me take action, because it's not just like think it, it'll be here, think it, then you'll act it, then it'll be here. So anyway, there are a lot of ties emotionally to pain. And although I do believe in it, I do not believe that, you could just read a book and it tells you have a pain here, this is what it is. No, you know what it is. It's a guide. It can tell you, hey, for instance, the knee sometimes can be inflexibility. I was trying for a year and a half to really do things the way I used to do things because that's what worked. I was like so determined to just continue on as it was, as if I didn't have a major change in my life. And so I really had to just address that. I do believe in a holistic approach to pain management, and a holistic approach to health and wellness. And I think this emotional component is one that's often left out because we don't really want to address it. But let me tell you, and working with clients too, when you address this can be a game changer. This does not take a substitution for any other therapy. And I have it last because you want to get the foundations. Like you have the physical is a foundation. If things are not right physically, that's where you need to start. And then you go into emotional. And there are probably people who would disagree with me on that. And there are some that I know like 100% only focus on the emotional. And I just can't get down with that. Like there's no one way to do anything. There's no one focus. Like it's really a multitude, but it doesn't need to do all these things at once. Kind of take it step by step. And even as I explained, like there were certain things I only did a little bit of. So like the KT taping, I only did that once for 3 days. Even the topicals, that was not an everyday thing that I used. And exercise wasn't even every day. Massage, heat, stretch every single day. I think that's definitely the biggest thing that makes a difference. So anyhow, I hope those 7 things are things that you can do to help yourself get out of pain. You have a lot more power than you probably think that you have, and you can actually heal this stuff quicker. So whether it was, something you did, pull something in the gym or at work, or just this repetitive thing that keeps coming up, if you start working on it yourself, you're going to get a lot more relief, especially if you do nothing, and you always do want to get things checked out, make sure you don't have any tears and things like that. But even if it's a strain, you can definitely be fixed. If it's like some sort of like tendon issue, tendinosis, tendonitis, whatever, that's usually a muscle issue in my opinion. And so even those things, even if you get like a diagnosis, doesn't mean that like none of these will work. I'm talking about serious diagnosis. And even then, to be honest, even then, You just may have to wait until certain things heal, but using all of these techniques again will help heal that too. I'd love to know what you think about this episode. I would love to know what you're interested in learning about, where you experience pain. Just share anything. I just am so happy to finally be producing this podcast and getting it out there. And I really hope that you enjoy it. Have an awesome day. And if you feel so inclined to, share this with somebody who it could help. I will talk to you later. And please, 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 please go do something good for yourself because you deserve it. Bye. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Pain-Free Lifestyle Podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this episode, and comment your biggest takeaway. Please remember that this podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not replace medical advice. Always consult with your doctor for medical advice. I hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next episode.